You're lying in the quiet of night, and somewhere far away, a baby animal takes its very first breath. The world is vast, yet every life begins small, fragile, and new. But how do newborn giraffes manage to stand within minutes of birth? Why do penguin parents trade roles for weeks just to keep a single chick alive? And what secret games do young animals play that prepare them for the challenges of survival? Welcome to Nature Nap, where we explore the wonders of nature and animals as you drift to sleep. Tonight, we'll follow the most relaxing facts about baby animals, their cries, their play, their bonds, and the fragile steps that lead toward independence. Close your eyes, let the softness of new life guide you into rest. From the hush of a polar bear den to the vast grasslands where giraffes take their first fall into the world, beginnings in the wild are never quiet, though they are often fragile. Tonight, we linger in that moment of arrival, when life first appears and takes its place in the trembling balance of survival. An elephant calf emerges after nearly 2 years of waiting in the womb. When it finally arrives, the weight of its new body is staggering, more than 200 pounds at birth, already larger than most grown humans. And yet despite this size, the calf is clumsy. It leans heavily on its mother, its trunk swinging without purpose, like a rope searching for meaning. That first day is a gentle reminder. Even the giants of the earth must learn to walk softly into life. Nearby in the savannah, a giraffe calf enters the world in a way few creatures do. It falls nearly 6 feet to the ground as its mother delivers it standing. The drop is abrupt but purposeful. The impact jolts the calf awake, forcing the lungs to fill, breath rushing in. For minutes it lies stunned, and then slowly, impossibly, it begins to rise on unsteady legs, still damp from birth. The mother stands close, her towering presence shadowing the fragile new body. It is strange to think that the first act of a giraffe's life is to fall, and the second, to rise. In the open ocean, life begins differently. A baby dolphin is born tail first, an unusual reversal compared to most mammals. This single detail, tail before head, is a quiet safeguard. By emerging in this order, the calf avoids inhaling water in those first moments. Within seconds, it swims upward with help from its mother, breaking the surface to take that first shivering breath. Around it, the pod gathers, a circle of guardians. It is not just one life welcomed here, but many voices ensuring its survival. The calf, slick and new, learns the sound of its mother's whistle, a call it will follow faithfully for years. On a drier plain, a zebra foal stumbles to its feet in a striped blur of legs. Within hours, it can recognize its mother, not by smell nor sound, but by the unique patterns across her body. Every stripe is a code, every shape a memory. The foal's life depends on memorizing those patterns, because in the chaos of the herd, sight is the truest tether. Watching a zebra foal press close to its mother, matching her movements, is to see instinct unfolding, as if scripted long before birth. And in the deep Arctic silence, the smallest beginnings of all take shape. Polar bear cubs are born blind, nearly hairless, weighing less than a pound. They arrive in the dark warmth of a snow den while storms rage outside. Their survival depends entirely on the heat of their mother's body and the fat-rich milk she provides. For months, they will remain unseen, curled in her fur, growing slowly in the deep shelter of ice. To us, they may seem vulnerable, but in the stillness of that den, they are safe in a kind of frozen womb of the earth. Each of these arrivals carries a lesson about beginnings. Some are heavy, thudding onto hard ground. Some are buoyant, rising through water to meet the air. Others are hidden, wrapped in snow and silence. What unites them is the quiet insistence of life pressing forward, regardless of the setting. To witness a newborn in the wild is to stand at the edge of vulnerability and endurance. The elephant calf clings to its mother's leg, trunk still uncertain. The giraffe struggles upright on spindly legs, learning balance before the predators sense weakness. The dolphin calf gulps air, greeted by whistles that echo across the waves. The zebra foal memorizes a living barcode in stripes that only it can read. And in the snow, a cub no bigger than a squirrel dreams beneath the breath of its mother. Beginnings are always precarious. They are shaky, wobbly, filled with first breaths and cries. And yet there is wonder in the persistence. For these newborns, survival is not promised. Each step, each breath, each swallow of milk is a negotiation with the world. And for us, hearing these stories as we rest, perhaps the reminder is softer still. Every beginning is both fragile and fierce. Even the smallest lives arrive with a quiet courage. If the first act of life is to stumble, and the second is to rise, what does it mean that we carry traces of those early moments long into adulthood? The moment of arrival is never complete until air fills the lungs. Across the animal kingdom, the first breath is both fragile and decisive, a sudden demand placed on a body that has never felt air. For some it comes as a cry, a thin sound that slices through stillness. For others it comes in silence, a simple widening of the chest. However it arrives, that first inhalation changes everything. In the sea, where birth takes place beneath the weight of water, breath must be reached quickly. A newborn whale, vast though helpless, is urged toward the surface by its mother. The calf must rise within 10 seconds to breathe or risk drowning. Mothers sometimes nudge their calves upward with powerful strokes, ensuring the first gasp of oxygen arrives in time. When it does, the sound is like a fountain breaking into air, water spraying outward as the calf exhales fluid from its lungs. That single act begins a lifetime of surfacing and breathing, a rhythm that will never stop until the ocean itself grows still around it. Birds, in contrast, greet the world with lungs that must open within minutes of hatching. Inside the shell, they practice breathing through a network of tiny blood vessels pressed against the egg's surface. But when the shell breaks, they must shift to air drawn directly into their lungs. For chicks, this moment is abrupt, the body laboring to inflate delicate air sacs that will carry them from helpless peeps to strong flight calls. A hatchling's first breath is soft, but it echoes across the nest as if announcing, "I am here." On icy shores, a seal pup is born with lungs ready but untested. Within hours it begins to vocalize, sending out distinct calls that ripple across the colony. Each pup's voice is unique, a sound the mother learns quickly amid the crowd. The cries are more than simple noise, they are bonds stitched by sound. A mother can pick out her own pup from hundreds, the way a single note can stand out in a chorus. That early cry is more than survival, it is recognition, a tether through the chaos of wind, waves, and other mothers' young. Mammals of every kind reveal this secret. The cries of the newborn reach more than ears. They stir hormones in parents, triggering milk letdown, softening vigilance into care. Scientists have measured this effect. A cry, however faint, creates a surge of oxytocin in the mother's body. The call of the helpless shapes the behavior of the strong. It is as if the sound itself is written into the design of survival. To hear a cry is to feel compelled to respond, whether you are an elephant mother or a human listening in the dark. And not all young rely solely on lungs for this first contact with life. Amphibians carry a dual gift. A tadpole hatching into water does not gasp, but absorbs oxygen through its skin. It is a quieter beginning, a breathing without sound, an exchange so subtle it is invisible. Later, gills will take over, and later still, lungs will form. But in those first fragile hours, life is carried through the skin itself, a boundary that is porous enough to invite the world in. In a way, their first breath is not a breath at all, but a soaking of oxygen through the body's surface, a reminder that life does not always follow one script. The first cry, the first gasp, the first pull of air, these are moments charged with urgency, yet in their urgency, there is tenderness. The whale calf breaking surface under its mother's push, the chick heaving for air in a nest of cracked shells, the seal pup calling into wind until its mother answers, the mammal cub whose cry transforms a parent's body into a vessel of milk, the tadpole drinking life silently through its skin. Each is a beginning that links one generation to the next, breath to breath, sound to sound. And in listening, there is a kind of peace, for even though these moments arrive with strain, they also announce resilience. To fall asleep thinking of these first breaths is to remember our own, long past but not forgotten by the body. Somewhere in our muscles, in the depths of memory, the echo of that first inhalation remains. The lungs filled, the cry came, and the world began. If the cry of the newborn can awaken care in another, what does it say about the deep connections we still carry, even in silence? Life, once drawn into breath, must still be hidden. In the wild, survival often depends not only on strength, but on the shelter that cradles the fragile young. The nest, the burrow, the hollow, the mound, these places are wombs remade, sanctuaries where the smallest lives can wait for the world to soften. A rabbit, fur brushed loose from her own body, lines a shallow nest in the earth. To an unknowing passerby, it looks like a careless scrape in the soil, but inside, beneath that soft lining, kits lie unseen. They are blind, helpless, almost indistinguishable from one another. Their only protection is the covering of grass and fur, and the mother's timing. She visits them only briefly, once or twice a day, so as not to draw predators' attention. The nest is both absence and presence, the mother gone, but her careful design remaining, sheltering the fragile pink bodies until their eyes open and their legs strengthen. Elsewhere, in a desert landscape where shadows lengthen quickly, a group of meerkats lives beneath the sand. Their burrows stretch in winding tunnels, branching like veins. Inside, pups are born into darkness, remaining hidden for weeks before they see the sky. Above ground, sentinels watch for hawks, jackals, or snakes. Below ground, warmth and safety hold the young in stillness. The burrow is a fortress built not from stone but from vigilance, dug with small claws that know instinctively where to turn, where to stop, how to keep the earth firm but open enough for air. To imagine the pups there nestled in the dark is to imagine a heartbeat under the ground, waiting for its moment to surface. In the coastal sands, a turtle has buried her future. Sea turtles return to the very beaches where they once hatched, using the invisible compass of Earth's magnetic field to guide them. With patient labor, the mother digs a deep chamber, deposits dozens of eggs, then covers them with sand, leaving no sign of disturbance. For weeks the embryos grow in silence, warmed by the sun above. When they finally emerge, it is together, a chorus of tiny shells clawing upward through darkness to reach air. The nest is not permanent, it is a launch pad, and once the young break free, the ocean itself becomes their only refuge. Far to the south, where ice rules, another kind of nursery takes shape. Emperor penguins do not build nests at all. Instead, they create a living cradle from their own bodies. After laying a single egg, the female transfers it carefully onto the male's feet. He balances it there, covering it with a flap of warm skin. For 2 months, through brutal Antarctic storms, the father holds the egg aloft, never letting it touch the ice. His own body becomes both burrow and blanket, a shelter fashioned not of earth or twig, but of patience and stillness. To see an entire colony of males, each balancing a single egg on their feet, is to see devotion turned into architecture. In wetter climates, where rivers coil and widen, crocodiles also build with patience. They gather leaves and soil, forming a mound that traps heat from decomposition. The eggs buried inside are guarded fiercely, the mother lurking close. She does not abandon her clutch as some reptiles do. Instead, she listens. When the hatchlings are ready, they call from inside the shell, soft grunts that vibrate through the mound. At that sound, the mother digs them free, carrying the tiny young in her jaws to the water. Her mouth, lined with teeth, becomes paradoxically the safest place for them to begin. All of these shelters share a quiet truth. They are bridges between vulnerability and the wider world. The rabbit nest, hidden and brief, keeps danger at bay through secrecy. The meerkat burrow, dug deep, thrives on community and watchfulness. The turtle nest relies on numbers, many hatchlings rushing the sand to overwhelm predators. The penguin's balancing act turns the parent into a walking incubator. The crocodile's mound, heated from within, becomes a chamber of voices, calling their mother to release them. For the young inside these shelters, time passes slowly. They grow in dark, in warmth, in closeness to one another. They are shielded not by their own abilities, but by structures designed for them, whether dug, built, carried, or grown. And when they emerge, they step into a world already waiting with both danger and wonder. We might imagine nests and burrows as mere backgrounds, as places that vanish once the young depart. But in truth, they are central to survival, shaping the first days and weeks, giving each new life the space to gather strength. Without them, the beginning would often be the end. As you rest tonight, picture those quiet chambers, the shallow scrape lined with fur, the winding tunnel lit only by warmth, the sand concealing dozens of tiny heartbeats, the egg balanced on broad penguin feet, the mound that rustles with hidden calls. Shelters each different, each temporary, yet each a testament to care. If the first shelter protects without question, what happens when protection must give way to independence? To leave the nest, the den, or the burrow is to step into motion. The act of standing, of walking, of balancing weight on legs that have never carried it before, is among the first and most universal struggles of the newborn animal. And it is a struggle that unfolds again and again in the open grasslands, the icy shores, and the crowded colonies of life. A giraffe calf, born in that startling drop, spends its first hour trembling on spindly legs. The effort is monumental. Its limbs splay awkwardly, as though made for another body. Yet predators in the savannah do not wait, and so nature insists on speed. Within 30 minutes, the calf is up. Within a few more it begins to walk. By the end of the first day it can even run. The image is almost comical, a creature taller than most men, staggering like a child just learning to balance. But in its awkwardness lies grace. The determination to stand is itself survival. On the plains, horses share this same urgency. A foal, still slick with birth, attempts standing almost immediately. Its first tries end in collapse, but the body remembers its purpose. Within hours, it is moving beside its mother, legs clattering over the ground with surprising steadiness. This ability to rise so quickly is not indulgence, it is defense. To stay still too long is to invite danger. So the foal's first day is spent not in rest but in a dance of learning. Stumble, rise, until walking becomes second nature. Elephant calves, though born far larger, take a slower path. Their first days are filled with falls, each step heavy and uncoordinated. They lean against mothers and aunties, held gently by trunks that steady them. When they collapse, it is not defeat but rehearsal. The calf may flop sideways, legs tangled beneath it, but soon rises again, encouraged by nudges and touches. Walking for an elephant is not a solitary act. It is learned in community, each step overseen by the herd. The calf's legs eventually find rhythm, and soon it walks beneath the shade of giants, its small frame protected in the circle. In colder climates, penguin chicks face another version of this challenge. Their bodies wrapped in down are not yet suited for the slick surfaces they must cross. Each waddle is unsteady, every step a tiny victory. Balance is hard won, and yet they persist, moving toward warmth or food, learning the strange art of locomotion on two short legs. The colony itself becomes a field of practice, chicks stumbling, bumping into one another, righting themselves again. These steps are not elegant, but they are the foundation of survival. Seals, born on icy beaches, do not walk at all, not at first. Instead they roll, sliding on soft bellies, flopping forward with effort. Watching a pup move is to witness persistence dressed as clumsiness. The flippers flap, the body wiggles, and somehow the pup inches forward. Eventually they learn to swim, a motion smoother and truer to their design. But those first hours on land, as they roll toward the safety of water, are just as important. Motion is motion, however ungainly. What unites these young creatures is not ease but resilience. Walking or its equivalent does not come naturally. It must be earned through effort, through falls, through persistence. The giraffe stumbles on long legs. The foal trembles but steadies. The elephant leans on its kin. The penguin totters in the huddle. The seal flops toward the sea. Each one shows that motion is learned through failure, that balance arrives only after imbalance. And yet, there is a kind of beauty in the awkwardness. To see a young animal learning to move is to see determination in its purest form. There are no shortcuts, no effortless leaps into perfection. There is only practice, repeated until the body remembers. For us, hearing these stories in the stillness of night, perhaps there is comfort in the thought that clumsiness is not weakness, but beginning. Every stumble contains the seed of stability. Every fall teaches the muscles to rise. Even giants like elephants begin by fumbling. Even runners like horses begin by shaking. Even those destined for the sea, like seals, must struggle on the land before grace reveals itself. In the hush between sleep and waking, imagine the soft thud of a giraffe calf rising again, the quick shuffle of a foal at its mother's side, the deep rumble of elephants encouraging their youngest, the chorus of penguin chicks waddling together, the quiet slap of flippers on ice. Each sound is a reminder. Motion, however uncertain, is enough to carry life forward. If the first steps are always unsteady, does balance itself only exist because we learn to fall first? Once the young have risen to their feet or found their way to the water, another quiet challenge begins: nourishment. The act of feeding is more than survival. It is intimacy written in milk, in food shared mouth to mouth, in rituals that bind parent to offspring. Across species, the ways of feeding are as varied as the landscapes they inhabit, yet they carry the same quiet devotion. Life passed from one body into another. In the blue expanse of the ocean, a whale mother nurses her calf with milk unlike any other. It is thick, almost the texture of toothpaste, rich enough to sustain growth in the cold. A single calf may drink up to 50 gallons a day, pressing close to its mother's belly as streams of white cloud the water. Each gulp fuels astonishing growth. Within months, the calf doubles in size. This is not just nutrition, but a silent tether, one that keeps the calf close to the mother as they migrate through endless seas. The feeding bond ensures not only survival but companionship, the calf always in the slipstream of its mother's body. In Australia's dry bush, a kangaroo mother nurses in a different way. Her newborn Joey, no larger than a jelly bean, crawls blindly into the safety of her pouch. There it latches onto a teat that swells in its mouth, providing a perfect seal. For months it will remain there, drinking milk that changes composition as the Joey grows. What begins as a thin liquid becomes rich and fatty later, precisely tuned to the young's needs. And even as an older Joey pokes its head out to nibble grass, it still returns for milk, head diving back into the warmth of its first home. High in the branches of a forest, owl chicks wait with open mouths, their downy heads bobbing. The parents return with prey: mice, insects, sometimes even small birds. At first the adults tear the food apart, softening it for tiny beaks. Later the chicks gulp whole pieces, their gullets bulging as they learn to manage larger prey. The act of regurgitation, though unsettling to us, is one of the most intimate gestures in the bird world. Nourishment given back in softened form, food that has already passed through the parent, returned so the chick may grow. In the shadows of a den, wolf pups experience something similar, but grounded in the life of the pack. Too young to eat solid meat, they lick eagerly at the mouths of returning adults. The older wolves respond by regurgitating partially digested food, a process that ensures pups are nourished even when the hunt is far away. Later, as their teeth sharpen, they will be allowed to tug at scraps, learning the taste of meat. Feeding here is not just the mother's duty, but the work of the entire pack, proof that wolves live and survive together. And in the shimmering light of salt flats, flamingo chicks are fed with a substance almost magical in its strangeness. Both parents produce a secretion called crop milk, a fluid rich in protein and fat, tinged pink from pigments in their diet. They dribble this into the chick's beak, painting nourishment in hues that mirror their own feathers. Over weeks, the chick's grey down slowly changes, preparing for the bright plumage of adulthood. Feeding is not just survival here, but a sharing of color, a transformation guided by the meals provided in careful rhythm. These feeding rituals, whether through milk, regurgitation, or shared secretions, show that survival is not solitary. It is a transaction of care. The whale mother pushing calories into her calf at sea, the kangaroo adjusting her milk as her joey grows, the owl softening prey, the wolf regurgitating hunts, the flamingo tinting its chick with pink nourishment. Each reveals that the act of giving food is also the act of shaping identity. To watch such feeding is to witness a contract written in biology: I give, so you may live. But beyond biology, it becomes something deeper. It is closeness enforced by need, a connection that carves loyalty into memory. A calf will recognize its mother's whistle long after weaning. A joey will return to its pouch long after it first peers into the sun. A wolf pup will follow the pack's scent after its first regurgitated meal. A flamingo chick, once pale and gray, will eventually mirror its parent's color. For us, reflecting in the quiet of night, there is comfort in knowing that nourishment in nature is rarely mechanical. It is offered with risk, with devotion, with the quiet patience of a parent shaping the life of another. Imagine drifting to sleep with these images: the spray of milk beneath the sea, the joey curled in velvet darkness, the owl chick craning upward for morsels, the wolf pup licking a muzzle, the flamingo chick glowing faintly pink at the edge of water. In each, feeding is a quiet promise that life continues not because it is strong at the start, but because someone else makes it strong. If nourishment binds bodies so tightly, what lessons lie in the playful chaos that comes when the full belly begins to seek joy? After the belly is filled and the body steadies on its new legs, another instinct begins to stir: the urge to play. Play seems frivolous, a waste of energy in a world where survival is a daily negotiation. Yet across the animal kingdom, young creatures leap, wrestle, chase, and tumble, repeating games that appear joyful but carry hidden purpose. In play, skills are sharpened, bonds are strengthened, and futures are rehearsed. On the golden plains, lion cubs spend hours in mock battles, their tiny roars puff from their mouths as they leap onto one another, teeth grazing fur without harm. They stalk through grass, tails twitching, eyes fixed on imaginary prey. Every pounce, every tumble is practice, not just for the mechanics of hunting, but for the courage required to face resistance. To see them in play is to glimpse the adult lions they will one day become, sharpened by years of games that were never games at all. In the open ocean, dolphin calves chase bubbles as though the sea itself had scattered toys for them. They leap through spirals of silver air, twist beneath waves, and race one another toward unseen finish lines. These games serve more than joy. They hone speed, coordination, and social connection. By imitating their mother's leaps and adding playful flourishes, calves learn both skill and individuality. A bubble blown and caught in sunlight is not wasted time, but a rehearsal for survival, in a world where agility and awareness are essential. Among the forests, bear cubs wrestle. They grapple with siblings, rolling in the undergrowth, biting softly at ears and paws. The contests look rough but are tempered with restraint. In these playful battles, they build muscles, test limits, and learn the language of power without harm. The cubs that play hardest are often those that later thrive, their bodies and instincts primed not only by hunger, but by the games of youth. Young primates carry play even further. In troops of monkeys and apes, infants chase tails, leap from branches, and invent endless variations of games. Some learn by mimicry, copying the movements of adults who crack nuts or use sticks. Others create entirely new games, swinging in circles, pulling leaves in patterns, laughing in their own ways. For primates, play is not just practice for survival, but a rehearsal for intelligence, for problem solving, for the creativity that defines their adult lives. And along riverbanks, otter pups learn to dive. At first they float helplessly, buoyant bodies unwilling to sink. Mothers coax them under the water, sometimes even carrying pups in their mouths and releasing them briefly, as if teaching through immersion. The pups sputter, splash, and scramble back to the surface, only to dive again. Soon, play takes over. They chase one another through ripples, slide down muddy banks, and invent races in the current. What begins as fear transforms into joy, and what begins as joy becomes mastery. Across these landscapes, play is more than release. It is a kind of rehearsal, an instinctive curriculum set by nature. Lion cubs practice hunting before hunger demands it. Dolphin calves refine movement before danger tests them. Bear cubs build strength before scarcity arrives. Primates learn problem-solving before adulthood requires it. Otters practice swimming before rivers pull them into deeper water. Play makes the impossible manageable by wrapping it in laughter and ease. Even the smallest gestures reveal the depth of this learning. The paw swipe of a lion cub mirrors the strike that will one day bring down prey. The twist of a dolphin calf mimics the agility needed to evade predators. The bite of a bear cub foreshadows the defense of territory. The stick-wielding game of a young chimpanzee rehearses the tool use that will feed it. The playful dive of an otter pup becomes the plunge that will catch fish. In every giggle of movement lies preparation. For us, reflecting under quiet skies, there is a soothing lesson here. Perhaps play is not distraction but wisdom, the body's way of learning without fear. To tumble, to chase, to invent, is to prepare for the unknown with joy rather than dread. If young creatures can learn survival through games, perhaps we too can remember that growth often hides in the things that feel lightest. As you drift deeper into rest, imagine the soundscape of this youthful practice, the rustle of cubs in grass, the splash of dolphins chasing bubbles, the thud of bears rolling in leaves, the chatter of monkeys inventing games, the slip of otters sliding into streams. Each sound is both laughter and lesson, play and preparation. If play is practice wrapped in joy, what do young lives discover in the larger patterns of care offered by their herds, packs, and colonies? In the wild, no creature survives entirely alone. For many young animals, safety does not come from the nest or the burrow, but from the living walls of a group. Herds, packs, and colonies become shelters of their own, bodies forming barriers, voices weaving signals, care shared among more than just mothers. Childhood, in these places, is a communal project. On the open savanna, elephant calves grow within circles of care. Though the mother is central, she is rarely alone in her task. Around her move aunties, older sisters, sometimes even grandmothers, who watch the calf with steady eyes. These helpers are called olla mothers, and their role is essential. They allow the mother to rest, to feed, to drink, while the calf is guided and guarded. The calf learns to walk not only beside its mother, but under the trunks of many, each touch a reassurance. In such herds, a calf is not one child, but everyone's child. The herd itself becomes a nursery. In the forests and mountains where wolves range, pups are raised not by one pair, but by the entire pack. The den, hidden in brush or rock, is surrounded by hunters and sentinels. While the mother stays close in the earliest weeks, the others bring food, stand guard, and play with the pups when they emerge. The young grow in the rhythm of shared howls, learning early that survival depends on cooperation. The pack is more than family, it is a breathing shield, one that teaches loyalty as much as it gives protection. At the edges of Antarctica, colonies of emperor penguins stretch for miles, tens of thousands of birds clustered together. In this crowd, chicks are shielded from cold and predators, not by single parents, but by collective warmth. When storms sweep in, the colony forms a living huddle, chicks pressed at the center, while adults rotate along the outer rim, taking turns with the wind. In this circle, no chick belongs to just one pair of wings. All are kept alive by the shifting geometry of the colony. Safety becomes a shared shape, moving as the cold presses in. Beneath the waves, dolphins too practice a form of community care. Calves, though bonded to their mothers, are often watched by babysitters, females who carry, protect, or play with the young. These old parents allow mothers to rest or feed, ensuring calves remain guarded in the fluid complexity of the pod. Each calf grows surrounded by many voices, learning the whistles and clicks that map its social world. To be born into a dolphin pod is to be born into a family of many, where the young are never far from a protective presence. Together, these examples form a tapestry of shared survival. The elephant's circle, the wolf's pack, the penguin's huddle, the dolphin's pod, each shows that childhood is not left to chance. It is reinforced by many bodies, many hearts. These groups remind us that strength does not always come from individuals, but from collectives that bend themselves around the fragile. For the young, growing in such care teaches more than safety. It teaches belonging. The elephant calf learns that every trunk is comfort. The wolf pup learns that every howl has a place in harmony. The penguin chick learns that warmth is strongest when shared. The dolphin calf learns that its voice matters among many. These lessons extend far beyond youth, shaping the social fabric of adulthood. And in these herds and packs, the young themselves shape the group in return. Calves encourage cooperation, pups strengthen loyalty, chicks deepen the huddle, dolphin calves sharpen the pod's cohesion. The presence of the fragile makes the strong act differently. They stand closer, they watch more, they give more. In this way, the young transform the group, even as the group sustains them. For us, listening at the edge of sleep, there is a reminder here of our own beginnings, how often survival came not from one, but from many. We too were shaped by groups that surrounded us, by hands and voices beyond our parents. Safety in every species is multiplied when it is shared. Picture now the savanna herd encircling its calf, the wolf pack ringing a den, the penguin colony folding into warmth, the dolphin pod swirling in protective arcs. Imagine the quiet strength of these living fortresses, built not of stone or wood, but of devotion. If herds and packs can teach survival through togetherness, what does it mean when the bond narrows again, focusing on the singular closeness between one infant and one parent? Beyond the safety of herds and colonies lies the quietest shelter of all, the bond between one infant and one parent. This closeness is not measured in distance or protection alone, but in touch, in sound, in the subtle rhythms of daily care. In the earliest days of life, when the world is too large and the body too small, this bond is the anchor that steadies everything. In the midst of a mountain forest, a gorilla mother cradles her infant. She holds it almost constantly in the first months, rarely setting it down even for a moment. The infant clings to her fur, riding against her chest or back, its tiny fingers curled into dark strands. The closeness is more than comfort, it is necessity. The baby cannot walk, cannot feed alone, cannot protect itself. It knows only the warmth of its mother's body and the slow sway of her movements. For the mother, each heartbeat she feels against her chest is a reminder that her strength must cover two lives at once. Out at sea, a whale mother and calf swim in tandem. The calf is never far, tucked close along her side, learning the shape of her movements. Beyond touch, there is sound. The mother hums softly beneath the water, low notes that travel through the vastness. These songs are not meant for the pod but for the calf alone, a private language between two beings. Scientists who have studied these sounds believe the songs may calm, may guide, may reassure. To the calf, they are the ocean's first lullabies, delivered through the body of its mother. On the icy shores where emperor penguins raise their chicks, recognition is everything. A returning parent, fattened from weeks at sea, calls out across the colony. Thousands of birds answer, Yet the chick knows its parent's voice. It runs toward that single sound, wings outstretched, body shivering with need. The reunion is not random, it is precise. No other voice will do. In this recognition lies the difference between survival and hunger. For the chick, the bond is sound woven into memory, proof that love can travel through noise and find its way home. And in the dry grasslands of Australia, a kangaroo joey presses back into its mother's pouch. It may have left already to nibble at shoots, to test the world on shaky legs, but the pouch remains its refuge. Returning is not failure, it is reassurance. The bond here is measured not only in milk, but in this safe re-entry, the womb remade as shelter for months longer than biology might demand. Each time the joey dives back inside, it reaffirms a connection. The mother's body is still the boundary between danger and safety. These moments reveal that parent and infant are not simply two individuals, but a single rhythm, two beings whose lives overlap almost completely in the earlier stages. The gorilla carrying her infant, the whale singing softly to her calf, the penguin chick finding one voice among thousands, the kangaroo joey clinging tightly during re-entry. Each scene is a reminder that survival often begins in intimacy. Such intimacy also builds memory. The infant gorilla learns the forest first through the movements of its mother. The whale calf learns migration routes by swimming in her slipstream. The penguin chick learns patience in waiting for a call that will always come. The kangaroo joey learns the world in intervals, venturing out only to return again. The bond is not only comfort but education, teaching without words, shaping without force. In every species, the parent carries burdens during these months or years of closeness. The gorilla mother eats less while she holds her infant constantly. The whale mother loses enormous weight while producing milk as rich as cream. The penguin travels for weeks in brutal seas just to bring back one meal. The kangaroo sacrifices freedom of movement to carry her joey within. These costs are high, but the bond demands them, and so they are paid. For us, listening in the stillness of night, there is something soothing in remembering that the first safety we all knew was not a place but a person. We too began with closeness, with arms, with voices, with warmth, and though the bond changes as we grow, its memory lingers in the body like the echo of a lullaby. Picture it now as you rest, the mother gorilla cradling her infant through a misted morning, the whale calf pressing close as its mother hums a song only it can hear, the penguin chick darting through a crowd to the sound it knows best, the kangaroo joey folding back into the warmth of its pouch. Bonds like these are not fragile, they are the foundation on which life continues. If intimacy is the first bond, what becomes of young ones when that bond is broken, and care must come from somewhere unexpected? Not every beginning unfolds with the comfort of a parent's constant presence. In the wild, lives are often interrupted, and the smallest may be left without the bond they were meant to rely on. Yet nature, in its quiet resilience, finds ways for survival to continue. Sometimes strangers step into the role of caregiver, and sometimes deception reshapes the story of who raises whom. Orphanhood, adoption, and unlikely bonds reveal another face of care in the animal kingdom, one that does not follow simple bloodlines. Among lions, family ties stretch beyond the immediate mother. In prides, cubs of sisters grow up together, tumbling in the same dust, nursing from more than one female. When misfortune strikes a mother lost to illness, injury, or conflict, another lioness may take in her cubs. She allows them to nurse alongside her own, licking them clean, sheltering them as if they were her own offspring. To the cubs, the difference is invisible. Milk is milk, warmth is warmth, and survival flows through the generosity of another. In this adoption, the pride shows that kinship can extend to a wider circle than one womb. The sea holds similar stories. Dolphins, deeply social beings, have been observed adopting calves that are not their own. A mother lost at sea, a calf left adrift, and another female takes it in, nursing it, swimming with it, protecting it against sharks and the vast loneliness of open water. Why do they do this? Perhaps the answer lies in the complexity of dolphin societies, where alliances and bonds ripple across years. Adoption may be both compassion and strategy, a way of weaving strength into the pod by ensuring no calf is abandoned to silence. But not all adoption is born from choice or altruism. In forests and fields, cuckoos practice a different kind of parenthood. A female cuckoo lays her egg in another bird's nest, leaving it among eggs that do not match. The unsuspecting foster parents incubate it, feed it, and devote themselves to raising a chick that grows faster and hungrier than their own. In many cases, the cuckoo chick pushes the original eggs or hatchlings out of the nest, monopolizing care that was never meant for it. To human eyes, this deception may seem cruel, yet it ensures the cuckoo's survival, a strategy evolved through generations. And still, there is tenderness in the foster parents' work, who feed and guard a chick that is not theirs, with the same intensity they would have given their own. Primates too reveal acts of unexpected guardianship. In some troops, when an infant is left motherless, another female may carry it, comfort it, even attempt to nurse it despite not producing milk. Young orphans are sometimes passed between multiple caretakers, receiving grooming and warmth. Though not every orphan survives, the effort itself suggests something deep in the primate heart, a recognition of need, a willingness to step in even when the bond of blood is missing. To see a female chimpanzee holding an orphan to her chest, rocking gently as though it were her own, is to glimpse empathy in its purest form. Orphanhood carries a shadow, yet adoption reshapes that shadow into light. The lioness who opens her side to another's cub, the dolphin who shares her milk with a calf she did not bear, the bird who labors endlessly to feed a cuckoo chick, the primate who carries an orphan with patient care, all are reminders that survival can rest on strangers, that bonds can form where none were expected. These stories whisper to us of resilience and generosity, but also of deception and strategy. Nature does not simplify the question of care, it multiplies it. Survival is never only about biology, it is about response, about presence, about whether someone, anyone steps forward when a young life calls. For us, listening in the quiet, there is comfort in knowing that the youngest are not always left to vanish when bonds break. There are systems, instincts, and even deceptions that ensure life continues. To drift off thinking of these orphans and their unexpected caretakers is to rest in the knowledge that care does not always follow one path. Sometimes it detours, sometimes it surprises, sometimes it arrives from the unlikeliest places. Picture it now, the lioness surrounded by cubs, some her own, some not, all pressed into her fur, the dolphin gliding with a calf at her side, though its whistle is not the one she once carried in her womb, the small bird feeding a cuckoo chick that towers above it, tirelessly offering insects again and again, the primate holding a fragile orphan, eyes soft, arms steady. These are the quiet miracles of adoption, written not in words but in persistence. If adoption can rewrite the story of family, what shapes do the earliest lives take when they unfold in the delicate architecture of a nest? The nest is a cradle of waiting, a delicate bowl of twigs, leaves and feathers holding lives that have not yet tested their wings. In these woven hollows, eggs tremble and break, and chicks emerge into a world both sheltered and exposed. The lives that begin here are measured in fragile beaks and endless hunger, in the patience of parents and the astonishing speed of growth. The first act of a chick's life is to break through the egg that held it. For this, many hatchlings are equipped with a tiny tool called an egg tooth, a sharp tip at the edge of the beak. With it, they chip at the shell from within, each strike faint but determined. The process may take hours, even days, until the egg finally splits and the chick pushes free. The egg tooth soon falls away, its task complete, a temporary instrument for the very first struggle. Not every chick enters the world with feathers or strength. Many species, like songbirds, hatch blind and nearly naked, their bodies small and trembling. They lie helpless in the nest, beaks gaping, unable to regulate their own temperature or find food. Parents brood them with warmth, pressing their bodies close, and feed them tirelessly, dozens of times a day. This helplessness may seem precarious, yet it allows the young to grow within the safety of constant care, their energy devoted entirely to rapid growth. In contrast, some birds hatch ready to walk almost at once. Shorebird chicks, born in open ground nests, emerge covered in down and able to leave the nest within hours. Their legs are steady, their eyes alert, their small bodies already attuned to foraging. They follow their parents into grasses, marshes and shorelines, learning by doing. For these species, the nest is not a place of long nurture, but a brief stop before independence begins. Survival comes not from helplessness, but from readiness. Others, like swallows, remain in the nest for weeks, their gaping mouths bright with color. When a parent returns with insects, the chicks raise their heads, mouths open wide, flashing yellow or orange linings that guide food into the right place. These begging displays are not just signals but magnets for care, irresistible to the parent's instincts. The chicks grow plump on the energy of countless flies and moths, their wings still folded, their world bounded by the rim of the nest. At the other extreme, some birds stretch childhood into the length of seasons. Albatross chicks born on remote islands may remain in the nest for almost a year. Parents fly across oceans to bring back meals of oil-rich food, feeding a chick that waits patiently, growing heavier with each delivery. The chick cannot follow, cannot forage, cannot leave. Instead, it learns endurance, sitting in solitude through storms and days of sun, practicing wing stretches until the moment of fledging finally comes. When it does, the young bird leaps into air, not as a fragile chick, but as a powerful flyer, prepared for migrations across the open sea. The variety of these nest lives shows the many ways survival can unfold. Some hatch helpless, trusting entirely in the devotion of parents. Some hatch ready, their bodies primed for independence almost immediately. Some stretch their youth long, enduring months of waiting before they take to the sky. The nest is both a place of sameness, all chicks vulnerable, all hungry, and a place of difference, each species writing its own script for childhood. And yet, despite the differences, there is a shared truth. The nest is the first classroom. It teaches patience, hunger, endurance, or readiness. It introduces the world not with flights or hunts, but with the simple rhythm of feeding, growing, waiting. A nest may seem small, but it is filled with the entire future of the young lives within it. For us, resting in our own stillness, the image of a nest can be soothing. To picture chicks huddled together, eyes closed, beaks open, waiting for food, is to remember our own dependence, our own beginnings. To imagine a shorebird chick stepping bravely into grass, hours after hatching, is to feel the courage hidden in the smallest bodies. To see an albatross chick waiting patiently through long months is to know endurance in a form we rarely consider. Let the sounds of the nest lull you, the faint pecking of an egg tooth on shell, the squeaks of blind hatchlings, the chorus of begging cries, the flutter of a parent's wings, the rustle of down as siblings press against one another. These are the sounds of survival, dressed in fragility, of futures preparing to fly. If the nest is the first world, what happens when the young are born into water, where the ocean itself becomes both cradle and challenge? The sea does not weave nests or dig burrows, yet it holds nurseries of its own. In shallow lagoons, in seagrass beds, in hidden coves, life begins with the pulse of waves. Here the young of ocean creatures enter a world vast and dangerous, a realm where shelter is made not from branches or stone, but from water itself. And still, even in this immensity, the smallest are given places of care. In the warm shallows, baby sharks make their start. Though their mothers may never meet them again, the young are born in seagrass beds and mangroves that cradle them like an underwater forest. These nurseries provide cover from predators and abundant food, softening the sharp reality of independence. Baby sharks swim with instinct alone, their sleek bodies already designed for hunting, yet they linger in these sheltered zones until strength grows. The grass sways, the currents flow, and in this quiet protection, they practice the movements that will one day take them into the deep. Seahorses create a different kind of nursery, one carried not by mothers but by fathers. A male seahorse keeps eggs within a pouch on his belly, nourishing them with fluids until they hatch. When the time comes, he contracts in rhythmic waves, releasing tiny seahorses into the water. They drift out into a world of light and motion, miniature replicas of their parents. The father's pouch has been their first home, a living womb turned inside out, offering both protection and provision. It is a reversal of roles, a reminder that parenting is not bound by one rule, but can be shared, reshaped, transformed. Farther offshore, in the wide Pacific, whale calves are born in warm lagoons where predators are few and the water is calm. These nurseries stretch across miles, shallow enough for mothers to keep close watch, quiet enough for calves to surface easily for air. The calves grow strong in these protected waters before making the long migration to colder seas. In the stillness of the lagoon, the bond between mother and calf is sealed, every gulp of milk accompanied by the reassurance of safety. The lagoon is not just geography, it is sanctuary, chosen carefully across generations. On rocky coasts, sea lion pups begin their lives in rookeries that echo with sound. The beaches are crowded with mothers and pups, their calls weaving together into a living chorus. Each pup recognizes its mother's bark amid hundreds of voices, and each mother responds, guiding her pup to nurse. For months they remain in this colony, playing, learning and growing, the group itself a wall of protection. The rookery may appear chaotic, yet it is order hidden in noise, a nursery born from numbers. In such places, survival is not only about the bond with one mother, but about the strength of the colony itself. Deeper in the sea, another story unfolds with more fragility. An octopus lays thousands of eggs in a hidden den, fastening them to rock like tiny strings of pearls. She tends them without pause, guarding, cleaning, and aerating them with careful touches. During this time, she does not hunt for herself. She lives only for the young, her energy devoted entirely to their protection. When the eggs hatch, clouds of small octopuses drift away into the water, and the mother, exhausted, dies soon after. Her body becomes part of the cycle, the last gift of nourishment to the ocean. The octopus nursery is brief, but it is filled with unmatched devotion, a life given wholly to ensure the start of many others. Each of these nurseries, whether seagrass bed, paternal pouch, quiet lagoon, crowded rookery, or hidden den, shows the adaptability of care in the ocean. The sea seems endless and perilous, but even here, strategies emerge to shield the fragile. Baby sharks find shelter in swaying grass, seahorses grow in the embrace of their father's body, whale calves surface in tranquil lagoons, sea lion pups call across noisy beaches, octopus hatchlings are guarded by a mother's final vigil. The ocean's nurseries remind us that beginnings are everywhere, even in places where it seems protection would be impossible. Care is not always a wall or a roof. Sometimes it is a current that carries gently, a body that shelters, a colony that watches, a sacrifice that gives everything. As you drift toward sleep, let the images of these nurseries carry you, the shimmer of seagrass with small sharks weaving through, the graceful release of tiny seahorses from their father's pouch, the calm turquoise water where a whale calf takes its first breaths, the crowded beach echoing with the cries of pups and mothers, the quiet cave where an octopus tends her pearls until she fades. In the endless water there are still places of beginning, still sanctuaries where life can take its first breath. If the sea can hold nurseries within its vastness, what shelters are offered to those who begin not in water, but in the damp secret world of amphibians and reptiles? The beginnings of amphibians and reptiles unfold in quieter, stranger ways than those of birds and mammals. These young ones do not always find comfort in milk, in warmth, or in the guarding circle of a herd. Instead, their survival often rests on adaptations that blur boundaries, breathing through skin, calling before speech, swimming before standing. Their births are reminders that life can emerge in forms both alien and delicate, each designed for a particular rhythm of survival. In shallow ponds, the story of a frog begins with a cluster of eggs, translucent orbs that tremble in the water. From them tadpoles emerge with bodies more fish than frog, tiny tails flicking, mouths grazing algae. Their gills open them to water, their skin absorbs oxygen, their lives dependent on fluid exchanges. These young breathe differently than they will as adults, living first as swimmers before they one day leap as jumpers. Birth here is not a single moment, but a gradual unfolding, a life rehearsed in one form before it changes into another. Among the reeds of southern swamps, another kind of voice emerges. Baby alligators, still inside their eggs, begin to call before they have even seen the light. Their tiny squeaks resonate through the nest mound, reaching their mother's ears. At the sound, she digs them free, helping break the shells that encase them. When they emerge, she carries them in her massive jaws, holding them gently despite the power of her bite. The contrast is striking. Teeth meant for tearing become cradles, the mouth of a predator becoming the safest place for her young. Other amphibians take parenthood into their own bodies in ways both ingenious and strange. Certain frog species carry their young on their backs, eggs stuck like pearls to damp skin. Some even go further, with mothers swallowing fertilized eggs and keeping them in their stomachs, suppressing digestion until the young are ready to hop free. Each strategy bends the body toward protection, turning even the organs of survival into cradles. The young, born not in burrows or nests but from within their parents' body, emerge already shielded by a biology that bends for care. Far offshore, sea snakes enter the world in a different element altogether. They are born alive, not hatching from eggs, their bodies already capable of swimming. Within moments of birth, the young snakes coil and glide through the water, their lives begun without hesitation. Unlike mammals, there is no long dependence, no suckling period, no extended bond. Survival is immediate, demanded the instant water touches their scales. It is a beginning stripped of tenderness, yet it is no less complete. The body knows what it must do, and it does so at once. These amphibian and reptile beginnings may seem distant from us, but they hold their own quiet poetry. The tadpole, gilled and soft, rehearsing one life before transforming into another. The alligator hatchling calling for its mother, even before it hatches, voice preceding presence. The frog whose back or stomach becomes a nursery, body reshaped into a place of protection. The sea snake born into currents, already swimming without hesitation. Each shows that there are many ways to enter the world, many scripts for survival, written into the earliest breaths. Unlike mammals or birds, many of these young cannot rely on long parental care. Their survival is balanced on adaptation more than nurture. Yet where nurture does appear, it is striking in its intensity. The alligator guarding her mound, the frog carrying her young. These flashes of devotion stand out all the more in a world where independence comes so quickly. In their rarity they shine. For us, listening in the still dark, these stories invite us to soften our definition of care. Perhaps care is not always prolonged feeding or constant closeness. Perhaps it can be brief, a call answered, a mound guarded, a skin offered as shelter. Perhaps protection need not be measured in years, but in moments that matter. Picture the small tadpoles drifting in clusters, the faint squeaks of alligators still inside shells, the strange sight of eggs glued to a frog's back, the sinuous motion of sea snakes already mastering the water. Each image is both alien and familiar, reminding us that birth is always a negotiation between fragility and design. If amphibians and reptiles show us beginnings shaped by transformation and instinct, what of the smallest creatures, the insects, whose early lives are rehearsed in even stranger forms? The smallest creatures often live the strangest beginnings. Insects with bodies that seem so slight and fragile carry childhoods unlike any others. Youth folded into shells, disguised as twigs, buried beneath soil, rehearsed in stages called instars. Their young lives are not simple copies of the adults they will become, but transformations, each stage a chapter written in different shapes. To watch insects at their earliest is to see the mystery of becoming played out in miniature. A butterfly does not arrive in the world as a winged miracle. It begins instead as a caterpillar, hatching from an egg no bigger than a pinhead. From the moment of birth, the caterpillar eats, chewing through leaves with a hunger that is both endless and precise. This stage is called an instar, and the caterpillar will shed its skin multiple times as it grows, outgrowing itself again and again. Childhood here is not waiting for strength, but devouring the world, building the reserves needed for the great transformation to come. Each bite is both survival and preparation, proof that even the most delicate wings begin in hunger and persistence. In the crowded tunnels of an ant colony, larvae live unseen, cared for by countless worker ants. They do not forage or feed themselves. Instead, they are tended constantly, fed mouth to mouth, carried from chamber to chamber depending on temperature and humidity. These larvae are the colony's future, and their helplessness is answered by collective devotion. To imagine them is to picture small white bodies curled and tended as if they were seeds, nurtured by hundreds of tireless caretakers. In this hidden nursery, childhood belongs not to the individual but to the entire colony. At the edge of a pond, dragonflies rehearse a different life altogether. They begin as nymphs, water dwellers with gills tucked into their bodies, hunting small prey beneath the surface. These young look nothing like the shimmering adults they will become. Instead, they crawl among reeds and silt, waiting for years before their wings ever touch air. When the time comes, they climb upward on a stem, split open their own skin, and emerge into the sky. Childhood for dragonflies is a long submerged life, a secret apprenticeship in the water before the sudden release into flight. Beneath the ground, beetle grubs gnaw silently at roots and decaying wood. Their pale bodies curve in darkness, unseen for months or years. They are architects of soil, recyclers of life, long before they become adults that glitter, fly or bore into trees. In this larval stage, the grub is both destructive and vital, breaking down matter to feed itself while preparing the earth for new growth. It is an unseen childhood, hidden from view, but one that reshapes the ground we walk on. What unites these insect beginnings is not appearance but transformation. The caterpillar that devours leaves, the ant larva carried by countless workers, the dragonfly nymph that stalks underwater, the beetle grub tunneling through roots. None of these resemble the adult forms they will take. Childhood here is not a smaller version of adulthood, but an entirely different life. To be young for insects is to be something else altogether, a being designed for growth and change rather than permanence. There is a strange comfort in this when we pause to consider it, to molt and shed, to live hidden, to emerge new. Insects remind us that childhood does not always flow neatly into adulthood. Sometimes it demands ruptures, moments where one form is shed entirely before another can emerge. Their instars are stages of letting go as much as they are stages of becoming. For us, resting in the dark, there is a quiet invitation in these small stories. Perhaps we too pass through instars, moments in our lives when we outgrow what we were and must split the skin of habit, stepping into something unrecognizable. The insect teaches us patience, endurance, and the possibility of sudden change. Picture them now as you drift toward rest. The caterpillar chewing through green leaves with single-minded devotion, the ant larva carried gently in the jaws of a worker, the dragonfly nymph rising from water to break free into air, the beetle grub curving deep in the soil, unseen but vital. Tiny lives, yet filled with immense transformations. If insects teach us that growth can mean becoming something entirely new, what does it mean for those young carried in pouches, where the body itself is the only world they know? Some beginnings are hidden not in nests or burrows, not in lagoons or dens, but in pouches, living chambers carried on the body of a parent. Marsupials, the mammals of Australia and nearby lands, bring their young into the world in ways unlike any others. Their newborns arrive so small, so underdeveloped, that they would not survive in open air. Instead, they crawl blindly into the warmth of a pouch, a second womb that cradles them through the months of growth still to come. A kangaroo joey, born scarcely larger than a jelly bean, begins this journey with one immense task: to crawl from the birth canal into the pouch. Blind, hairless, guided only by instinct, it clings to its mother's fur, pulling itself upward until it reaches the safety of the pouch. There, it finds a teat that swells inside its mouth, locking it in place. For months it will not leave, drinking milk whose composition changes as it grows. The pouch is both home and table, both shelter and kitchen, providing exactly what the joey needs at every stage. Only much later will the joey poke its head out, then venture briefly onto the ground, always returning quickly to safety. Koalas follow a similar path, but with their own peculiar twist. Their joeys also spend the early months in the pouch, feeding and growing until they are ready to face the world. But when they begin to transition to solid food, their diet is unlike any other. Before the joey can handle eucalyptus leaves, the mother produces a special substance called pap, a partially digested form of leaf, passed from her body to the young. It is both food and inoculation, introducing microbes that will one day help the joey digest tough, toxic leaves. In the closeness of the pouch and the strangeness of pap, the bond between koala mother and joey is written in biology as much as affection. Beneath the soil, wombats raise their young in pouches that face backward, an adaptation to a life of digging. A wombat joey, snug and growing, remains in this earthy sanctuary for many months. The backward-facing pouch keeps dirt from entering, while the mother burrows through soil, safe within. The joey feels the vibrations of digging as its world, its heartbeat echoing with the movements of its mother's claws. To emerge later into the tunnel she has carved is to step from one shelter directly into another. And among marsupials less known but just as devoted, Tasmanian devils carry multiple young in their pouches, sometimes more than 4 at once. The newborns, tiny and squirming, compete fiercely for the limited teats inside. Only those who secure a place survive, clinging tightly for months until they grow strong enough to leave. Though this struggle is harsh, the pouch itself is a sanctuary, the small survivors nurtured in warmth while their mother hunts and roams. When they finally emerge, their bond is sealed by the struggle endured together, each one a testament to resilience. Marsupial pouches reveal a truth about survival that is both tender and raw. Tender because the mother's body becomes a living room, an always present shelter that moves with her. Raw because survival depends on instinct, on competition, on the ability of the smallest to climb, latch and hold. The pouch is not indulgence but necessity, a second womb offered because birth arrives too soon. For the young inside, life is at once enclosed and expanding. The kangaroo joey knows only the soft lining of its mother's pouch, the scent of her fur, the steady rhythm of her movement. The koala joey learns taste and digestion before it learns how to climb. The wombat joey grows in reverse, carried facing the world it will one day dig into. The devil joeys grow side by side, bound by both rivalry and survival. To rest with these images is to imagine safety that travels, a cradle carried across grasslands, up trees, through burrows, into night hunts. The pouch is not static but moving, sheltering the fragile, while the parent continues with life. Few beginnings could feel more secure, cocooned inside the very body that gave life. Picture it now as you drift deeper, the tiny jelly bean joey pulling itself blindly to warmth, the koala joey tasting pap that shapes its future, the wombat joey curled while soil vibrates around it, the devil joeys pressed together in competition and survival, all of them carried, hidden, grown within the moving boundary of a pouch. If a pouch can be both cradle and fortress, what of those young who must hide in plainer ways, by disguising themselves, by blending into bark and sand, by wearing the quiet camouflage that keeps them unseen? In the wild, survival is often measured not in speed or strength, but in invisibility. For the youngest animals, whose bodies are soft and untested, blending into the background becomes their first shield. Camouflage and mimicry turn weakness into strategy, hiding the fragile within patterns, colors, and shapes that deceive the eye. These disguises are not costumes chosen but designs written into the body before birth. Ancient scripts of survival pass quietly through generations. In the stillness of a forest, a fawn lies pressed against the ground. Its coat is speckled with white spots, each one resembling a patch of sunlight filtering through leaves. To predators, the fawn becomes part of the dappled forest floor. It does not move, does not caw. Its very stillness is its armor. While the mother grazes nearby, the fawn's disguise buys it precious time, safety written into its skin, as surely as hunger is written into its belly. Beneath the waves, baby octopuses practice a more active form of disguise. From the moment they hatch, they can change the color and texture of their skin, shifting from pale sand to mottled rock in a blink. Even their movements mimic drifting seaweed, swaying with currents. To watch one vanish against coral or ripple into the form of a pebble is to see magic woven into muscle and pigment. Their camouflage is not just survival but artistry, a fleeting performance staged again and again as they grow. On branches, caterpillars take mimicry to extremes. Some resemble twigs so convincingly that even close inspection cannot separate them from bark. Others wear the shapes of bird droppings, unsightly disguises that repel predators before attack can even be considered. Their small bodies, vulnerable and soft, are shielded by illusion. To be young and edible is dangerous. To be mistaken for something inedible is salvation. These disguises may not last into adulthood, but in childhood they are lifelines. In the shallow coastal waters, cuttlefish hatchlings already command camouflage, as if born with the sea in their veins. Their skin contains chromatophores, cells that expand and contract to flash colors, ripple patterns, and shift textures. Even as babies, they mimic sand, gravel, or drifting algae, disappearing before danger can find them. This mastery is not learned, it is inherited, a gift at birth. In the shifting light of the sea floor, these small cuttlefish remind us that survival can be as simple as becoming unseen. High in forests, baby owls too practice a quieter mimicry. When danger approaches, they stretch their bodies tall and flatten their feathers, pressing against tree trunks. In this posture, they resemble broken branches, extensions of bark rather than living beings. The disguise is startlingly effective. Predators scan past them, missing the life hidden in plain sight. For a chick that cannot yet fly, this stillness and shape-shifting posture can mean the difference between life and death. What these young creatures share is not strength but deception. The fawn's speckles echo light. The octopus hatchling becomes rock and weed. The caterpillar disguises itself as twig or waste. The cuttlefish hatchling paints itself into its surroundings. The baby owl stiffens into bark. Each body carries not just vulnerability, but the tools to vanish, the power to survive by not being noticed. Camouflage, at its heart, is both defense and patience. It allows the young to remain unseen until they are strong enough to move, hunt, or fly. It buys time, and in childhood, time is everything. The longer the young remain hidden, the greater the chance they will live long enough to grow into their adult strength. For us drifting towards sleep, there is a soft lesson here. Not all growth is about stepping boldly into sight. Sometimes it is about remaining still, blending in, waiting for the moment when the body is ready. To disappear can be as powerful as to be seen. Picture it now as you close your eyes, the speckled fawn lying quiet in the grass, the baby octopus shifting from coral to sand, the twig-like caterpillar unmoving on a branch, the cuttlefish hatchling painting patterns across its body, the owl chick stiff and silent against bark. In each, the world is fooled, and in that deception, life continues. If camouflage shields the young until they are ready, what happens when readiness arrives? and growth begins to push them rapidly into new forms, shedding what they once were. Childhood is never still. Even in the quietest corners of the wild, the young grow, sometimes in sudden leaps, sometimes in cycles of shedding and renewal. Growth spurts and molting are the body's way of catching up with the demands of survival, stretching bones, thickening muscles, exchanging fragile coverings for stronger ones. These changes are not gentle, they are often awkward, uncomfortable, and necessary. To grow is to leave something behind, a skin, a feather, a form, in order to step closer to the life that waits ahead. In the frozen colonies of the south, penguin chicks wear coats of soft down. These fluffy layers keep them warm but cannot repel water. To remain safe, they must be guarded carefully, unable to swim or fend for themselves until a new plumage arrives. When the time comes, the soft feathers fall away, replaced by sleek, waterproof ones. The transformation is not instant. Patches of fluff cling stubbornly, giving the chicks a ragged, comical look. But beneath the awkwardness lies necessity. Until the down is gone and the new feathers grow, the chick cannot survive in the water. Childhood here is measured by the shedding of softness. Insects embody this rhythm most dramatically. Their bodies are encased in exoskeletons, rigid shells that cannot stretch. To grow, they must molt, splitting their outer layer and stepping out into the world softer, larger, more vulnerable for a short time. Caterpillars, crickets, grasshoppers all move through instars, stages defined not by age but by the number of times they have shed themselves. Each molt is both rebirth and risk, a pause in which the body is fragile, the shell not yet hardened. To imagine this is to see growth not as smooth expansion, but as repeated surrender, a willingness to leave one body for another again and again. Mammals, though spared the drama of molting, undergo their own transformations. In early life, bones lengthen rapidly, joints ache with expansion, muscles strain to catch up. Elephant calves grow at astonishing rates, adding pounds each day. Young primates stretch into adolescence, with sudden bursts that change their proportions almost overnight. For mammals, growth is hidden beneath skin, but it is no less urgent, no less demanding. Childhood is marked by spurts that test balance, coordination, and strength, reshaping the young into forms capable of adulthood. Reptiles, like snakes and lizards, move between these worlds. They molt not for stages alone, but continuously, shedding skin again and again as they grow. The old layer peels away, often in a single ghostly piece, leaving behind a replica of the body that once was. For young reptiles, these frequent sheds are the only way to keep pace with their own expansion. The discarded skins litter the environment like soft echoes, reminders of how many times the young have outgrown themselves. Each of these stories shows that growth is not simple gain, but a process of letting go. Penguins lose their softness, insects abandon entire shells, mammals stretch beyond proportions they once knew, reptiles leave ghostly skins behind. Childhood is a series of transformations, each one demanding change, each one creating vulnerability before strength. For us, listening in the dark, there is comfort in this rhythm. Growth does not unfold without discomfort. It requires awkwardness, fragility, even pain. Yet it is through these stages that resilience takes shape. The penguin chick, half fluffed, half feathered, will one day dive into icy seas. The molting insect, soft and exposed, will harden into a creature capable of leaps or flight. The adolescent mammal will stretch into an adult frame that can endure. The shedding reptile will glide more easily, body freed from the limits of old skin. Picture these transformations now. The penguin chick shaking loose its last tufts of down, the caterpillar splitting its skin along the back, the young mammal stumbling as its legs lengthen, the snake sliding free of its papery shell. Each image is both awkward and wondrous, reminding us that every stage of growth is temporary, every form a step on the way to another. If growth requires surrendering the body we once knew, what new voices rise as the young begin to discover their sound in the world? The voice is another form of growth, an expansion not of bone or skin but of sound. For many young animals, their earliest power is not in their legs or wings but in the cries, squeaks, and songs that carry across air, water, and ice. These voices are fragile at first, uncertain, sometimes high-pitched, sometimes broken, yet they hold weight. They summon parents, signal hunger, warn of danger, or simply practice the languages of their kind. Childhood is often noisy, and in those noises are the first signs of identity. In the savannah, elephant calves trumpet with squeaks rather than the deep rumbles of their elders. Their trunks, still awkward and unpracticed, produce sounds that wobble between whistle and bleat. Yet these high notes cut through the air, carrying farther than one might expect. Each squeak is answered by a mother's rumble or a touch of trunk. Over time, the calf learns to refine its voice, turning playful noises into meaningful calls, joining the chorus of the herd. But in those early squeaks lies a kind of joy, the sound of life testing itself in the open air. In the twilight of caves, bat pups babble. Their small voices tumble in rapid sequences, strings of chirps and squeals that seem chaotic. But scientists have found patterns in these babbles, rhythms that echo the adult calls of their colonies. The pups are practicing, rehearsing the sounds they will need to navigate and communicate. Like human infants cooing, their babble is not random but structured play, a soundscape of learning. Within the darkness of the cave, the high-pitched chorus of many bat pups is both eerie and endearing, a nursery where sound itself is the lesson. Across icy floes, the cries of seal pups stretch into the wind. Each pup's voice is distinct, a signature call that mothers recognize instantly. In a crowded rookery filled with noise, a mother can locate her pup by sound alone, ignoring hundreds of others. The pup's cry is more than hunger. It is a beacon of identity, a declaration of self. Even in their first hours, their voices cut through the cold air like threads tying one body to another. To survive in the harsh Arctic, that cry must be both loud and unique. Among trees, young songbirds rehearse their voices. Chicks begin with faint, imperfect versions of adult songs, stumbling through notes like learners, reciting a foreign tongue. Over weeks, their calls refine, shaped by practice and by listening to their parents. They rehearse until they can mirror the melodies precisely, carrying forward songs that have drifted across generations. In these uncertain whistles and half-formed trills, one hears both the awkwardness of learning and the beauty of tradition. Each young bird must practice the voice that will one day claim territory, attract mates, and continue its species story. Beneath the sea, dolphin calves craft their own unique voices. They develop signature whistles, personal sounds that function like names. These whistles emerge early, distinct from those of their mothers. The calf repeats and repeats its chosen call until it becomes a mark of identity, one that others in the pod will recognize. To imagine a dolphin calf swimming beside its mother, whistling softly to itself, is to glimpse individuality born in sound. Each whistle is both practice and proclamation, a small being announcing, "I am here, and this is me." Together these voices, the elephant's squeak, the bat's babble, the seal's cry, the songbird's rehearsal, the dolphin's whistle, remind us that childhood is not silence, but experimentation. Voices are tried, tested, refined. They grow stronger with use, clearer with practice. They are both tools of survival and expressions of self, shaping bonds as much as they announce needs. For the young, vocalizations are bridges. They bridge the distance between calf and herd, pup and mother, chick and parent, nymph and adult. They bridge the gap between helplessness and competence, carrying the young across their earliest vulnerabilities. In their cries, parents hear calls to act. In their babbles, peers hear play. In their rehearsals, species hear continuity. For us, lying in the quiet of night, these sounds echo faintly in imagination. The squeak of an elephant calf under wide skies, the babble of bats in echoing caves, the cry of a seal pup over drifting ice, the stuttering practiced notes of young birds, the soft whistle of a dolphin calf tracing bubbles in the sea. To think of these sounds is to feel the pulse of beginnings, fragile yet determined. As you drift deeper into rest, imagine those calls softening into a lullaby, high notes becoming low, babble becoming song, cry becoming voice, each one a step, not just toward survival, but toward the music of adulthood. If voices can grow from squeaks into songs, what do young ones learn when they watch and copy, when imitation becomes the quiet teacher of their lives? To be young is to watch, to follow, to mirror. In the wild, imitation becomes one of the most powerful tools of learning. No instructions are spoken, no lessons written, yet through observation, young animals acquire the skills that will sustain them. Each glance at a parent's movement, each echo of a call, each copied gesture is a step toward independence. Childhood is filled with mimicry, not of camouflage but of behavior, as the young learn by doing what they have seen before. In the forests of Asia and Africa, young monkeys begin their lessons by copying. They watch mothers use stones to crack nuts, or dig with sticks to uncover insects, or groom companions with meticulous fingers. At first their attempts are clumsy, stones slipping, sticks snapping, fingers uncertain, but repetition sharpens the motions, and soon they too can wield tools, search for food, and offer the social gestures that bind the troop together. To watch an infant monkey mirror the exact rhythm of a mother's hands is to witness culture in its simplest form, skills passed down not by speech but by sight and imitation. On the open plains, wolf pups learn their identity in echoes. When adults howl, the pups lift their heads and send out smaller voices, high and shaky. The pack answers, and the pups try again, adjusting pitch, length and rhythm. Over time, their voices deepen, blending more closely with the chorus. The howling practice is both play and apprenticeship, teaching the pups when to call, how to coordinate, how to declare the pack's presence. In every echoed note lies imitation, a thread that binds the young to the unity of the group. In the dense jungles, chimpanzee juveniles learn patience and technique by copying their elders at work. A mother fishes for termites, carefully inserting a twig into a mound, waiting before withdrawing it, covered in insects. A juvenile watches closely, then tries with its own twig, often pulling it out too soon or dropping it clumsily. Yet slowly through imitation, skill takes root. These young chimps are not inventors at first, they are apprentices, shaping their future through repetition of what they have seen. To imitate is to carry forward knowledge older than themselves, knowledge tested by countless generations. Near riverbanks, otter pups watch their parents crack open shellfish with stones. They see the firm grip, the strike against rock, the satisfaction of food revealed. At first they fumble, stones slipping from their paws, shells stubbornly unbroken. But persistence fueled by imitation sharpens the act, until they too can split clams and crabs. Play merges with practice, the pups learning through repetition the art that defines their species. To see a young otter finally succeed after so many failures is to see imitation blossoming into independence. These scenes reveal a simple truth. Childhood is a mirror. The young do not invent everything they need. They borrow, they copy, they repeat. In their repetitions, survival takes root. Monkeys inherit tool use, wolves inherit song, chimps inherit patience, otters inherit craft. The act of imitation becomes as vital as milk, as central as shelter. Without it, knowledge would vanish with each generation. Yet imitation is not only repetition, it is also transformation. Each young one adjusts what it learns, shaping it to its own body and context. The monkey cracks nuts in its own rhythm, the wolf pup develops a unique voice within the chorus, the chimp innovates slight variations in termite fishing, the otter refines its strike. In imitation lies both continuity and creativity, the safety of copying and the freedom of adaptation. For us, lying in quiet reflection, the lesson is tender and sharp at once. So much of what we know was first learned by watching others. The way to hold a spoon, the way to speak, the way to comfort. Childhood is filled with shadows of movements that were not ours, but became ours through imitation. The young in every species remind us that to learn by watching is not weakness but heritage. As you drift further into rest, imagine these apprenticeships unfolding in silence. The monkey child striking a nut against stone, the wolf pup echoing a howl under the moon, the chimp's twig dipping into earth, the otter pup raising a clam to a rock. Each action is simple, each copied gesture profound. Imitation is not just mimicry, it is memory carried forward. If imitation teaches skill through sight, what joy emerges when young ones invent for themselves, not for survival, but for the sheer pleasure of play. Play is often dismissed as frivolous, yet for the young, it is as necessary as food or shelter. Across the animal kingdom, play emerges again and again, a universal behavior that seems to serve no immediate purpose, yet is indispensable for growth. Through games, mock battles, races, and endless tumbling, young animals prepare their bodies and minds for the challenges of adulthood. Play is practice, disguised as joy. In the tall grasses of the savannah, lion cubs wrestle with one another. They stalk, leap, and tumble, their roars no more than squeaky growls. These games sharpen the reflexes they will one day use to hunt. A poor swipe that misses today foreshadows the precision of an adult strike. A playful ambush in the grass rehearses the patience and coordination needed for survival. To watch cubs roll and pounce is to see the future lion written lightly into present joy. In the icy expanses, polar bear cubs slide across snowbanks. They chase each other down slopes, pawing, nipping, then collapsing in panting laughter like huffs. These games build muscle, endurance, and agility in bodies that must soon endure long hunts on ice. Their play is exuberant, but not wasted. Every sprint across snow prepares them for the vast distances they will travel with their mothers. Childhood here is snowy practice disguised as delight. By the river, otter pups engage in endless sliding. They scramble up muddy banks, then slip down into the water. Over and over, the games are noisy, full of splashes and squeaks, yet beneath the fun lies skill building. Each slide teaches them how to enter water quickly, how to maneuver with ease, how to recover balance in a slippery world. Their joy echoes like laughter, but in truth, it is the body learning safety through motion. In the treetops, young primates invent elaborate games. They swing in circles, dangle by tails, chase one another from branch to branch. Sometimes the play takes the shape of imitation, one juvenile copying the posture of another, until both are laughing in their way. Other times it turns inventive, sticks turned into pretend tools, leaves woven into small toys. For primates, play is both physical rehearsal and mental stretching, a way of exploring creativity, testing limits, and building the social bonds that will guide their adulthood. And under the waves, dolphin calves play with bubbles. They chase the silver orbs blown from their own blowholes, circling them, nudging them, catching them in streams of light. They invent games together, sometimes racing, sometimes weaving patterns. Scientists believe this play strengthens coordination, fosters social ties, and stimulates intelligence. What looks like simple delight is in fact a rehearsal for communication and teamwork, skills essential in a pod that hunts, navigates, and protects as one. Play also carries subtle social lessons. Through mock battles, cubs learn how to gauge strength without causing harm. Through races and chases, young animals learn cooperation as much as competition. Through invented games, they practice roles, rules, and boundaries. Play becomes a safe space where mistakes carry no cost, where lessons can be learned without consequence. In the forgiving world of play, the future is rehearsed with laughter. For us, listening in the quiet, there is a soft resonance in these scenes. We too began with play as our first teacher, stacking blocks, chasing shadows, pretending to be things larger than ourselves. Through play we built muscles, practiced speech, tested imagination. In animals as in us, play is not frivolity, it is wisdom in disguise. Picture it now, as you drift into stillness, lion cubs tumbling in dust, polar bear cubs sliding down snowy hills, otter pups squealing as they dive from banks, young monkeys swinging and inventing games in branches, dolphin calves spinning silver bubbles in the sea. Each scene is filled with laughter-like energy, yet beneath it lies the serious business of growth. Childhood is brief, but play makes its lessons linger. If play is practice softened into joy, what strength lies in the bonds of siblings and peers, where young lives lean on one another for learning, comfort, and survival. The presence of siblings shapes childhood as much as parents do. Brothers and sisters, littermates and clutchmates, grow together in rhythms of rivalry and closeness. They are competitors for food, companions in play, protectors in danger, and teachers in patience. Across the animal kingdom, sibling bonds are written in shared warmth and struggle, lives unfolding side by side in ways that no solitary upbringing could provide. In the burrows of foxes, pups jostle for position at the mother's side. They nip and shove, eager for the richest milk, yet between squabbles they curl against one another in sleep. Their play sharpens hunting reflexes, their rivalry strengthens determination, their closeness provides heat in the cool of the den. Each pup grows not only through the mother's care, but through the constant presence of siblings whose bodies press into theirs day after day. To be a fox pup is to learn that family is friction and comfort intertwined. In the dark chambers of a lion's den, cubs share both milk and space. Sisters often give birth within the pride at the same time, and their cubs nurse interchangeably. This shared upbringing weaves siblings into an even larger network of kinship. Cubs wrestle, tug at tails, nap in tangled heaps of golden fur. They learn to hunt not alone but as a group, each one practicing tactics with brothers and sisters who will later stand beside them on the hunt. In lions, siblinghood is both training ground and foundation for future cooperation. Along riverbanks, beaver kits grow in the shelter of lodges built by their parents. They chew sticks together, slap tails in practice, and learn the architecture of dams side by side. Older siblings often remain for a season, helping care for the newest kits. The young learn not only from parents but from brothers and sisters, a step ahead, copying behaviors with fewer mistakes because guidance is close at paw. The lodge becomes a multi-generational school where sibling bonds create continuity of knowledge. In the cold rookeries of penguins, siblings are rarer. Many pairs raise only one chick successfully. Yet in those species that do nurture more than one, sibling bonds grow deep. Chicks huddle together for warmth, pressing into each other's downy feathers while parents forage. The closeness is survival itself. Without the shared heat of siblings, the cold could overwhelm. Even in scarcity, where food may not stretch to all, the physical nearness of siblings offers comfort. Their bond is both fragile and enduring, shaped by the simple act of leaning together against the wind. And beneath the soil, mole rat pups grow in colonies, where siblinghood extends into dozens. They nurse together, play in tunnels, and later join in the communal work of digging and defending. Here, siblings are not just a few companions, but an entire workforce in training. To be born into such a colony is to know from the beginning that your place is among many, each one tied to you, not only by blood but by labor shared underground. Siblinghood carries contrasts. It can be rivalry sharpened by hunger, as in fox dens where each pup must push for milk. It can be cooperation rehearsed for the future, as in lion prides where cubs practice group tactics. It can be mentorship, as in beavers where older siblings teach younger ones. It can be comfort, as in penguin chicks huddling for warmth. It can be collective duty, as in mole rats where siblings form the fabric of the colony. Childhood here is never solitary. It is shared, woven of bonds both tender and fierce. For us, remembering our own childhoods, the echo is unmistakable. Brothers and sisters shape us not only in kindness but in quarrels, not only in closeness but in distance. They are the first peers we know, the first rivals we encounter, the first companions we rely upon. In animals as in humans, sibling bonds carry us further than we realize, imprinting lessons of competition and care that linger long after youth. As you settle deeper into rest, imagine these small scenes: fox pups curled against one another after a tumble of play, lion cubs tugging tails in golden light, beaver kits working side by side with siblings, penguin chicks pressed together in a shivering knot, mole rat pups tumbling in dark tunnels with dozens of brothers and sisters. Each picture is a reminder that growth is rarely solitary. Childhood, almost everywhere, unfolds beside another. If siblings shape the path of growing, what happens when young ones must step away from family, learning independence through the long journey of migration? For some young creatures, childhood is not bound to one place. Their earliest lessons unfold on the move, carried across rivers, plains, oceans, and skies. Migration is not just an adult's endurance but a child's initiation, a journey in which the fragile must keep pace with the seasoned. To be born into a migratory species is to inherit distance itself, to grow in the rhythm of travel. On the vast savannas, wildebeest calves are born into motion. Within minutes of birth, they struggle to stand, pushed by instinct and urgency. The herd is already moving, and predators watch from the edges. Survival depends on speed. By the end of the first day, many calves can run beside their mothers, their legs still wobbly but strong enough to keep pace. Their migration begins almost immediately, part of the great river of bodies that moves across the plains in search of grass and water. Childhood, for wildebeest, is inseparable from the journey. In the oceans, humpback whale calves also begin their lives with travel. Born in warm lagoons, they nurse and grow until strong enough to follow their mothers on migrations, thousands of miles long. The calves swim in the slipstream of their mothers, saving energy, yet the distance tests their endurance. They learn routes by following, their bodies mapping oceans even before they are fully grown. To be a whale calf is to begin life with a journey etched into muscle memory, migration as inheritance. Along the skies, young sandhill cranes are raised for flight. Parents lead them in long migrations across continents, from northern breeding grounds to southern feeding lands. The chicks, still awkward in their first flights, learn to form the V-shaped patterns of the flock, taking turns in the slipstream. They follow the calls of their parents, memorizing routes that they will one day lead themselves. Their youth is filled with miles, each wing beat carrying them further into tradition. In the cold waters of the Arctic, young caribou calves face migrations that test even adults. Within days of birth, they are swept into herds moving across tundra, covering hundreds of miles to find grazing grounds. Calves stumble, rest, then rise again, urged forward by mothers and by the pressure of the herd's momentum. They learn resilience step by step, discovering that to fall behind is to be lost. Their small legs, untested, are shaped by distance almost from the first breath. Even in the insect world, migrations shape childhood. Monarch butterfly caterpillars may hatch in places far from where their parents began, feeding and growing until transformation carries them into flight. As butterflies, they continue the journey their ancestors started, each generation a link in a chain of travel stretching across thousands of miles. Though their bodies live only weeks or months, their migration is multi-generational, each young one born into the rhythm of a journey larger than itself. Migration teaches lessons that nests, burrows, and colonies cannot. It teaches endurance, the wildebeest calf running beside its mother, the whale calf swimming mile after mile, the crane chick flying against the wind. It teaches memory, roots carried not in maps but in instinct and repetition. It teaches resilience, calves rising after falls, wings beating in long arcs, small bodies keeping pace with large. Migration is both school and trial, preparing the young not only for survival, but for belonging within a lineage of movement. For us, listening in stillness, these journeys speak of continuity. To imagine a calf running under the dust of hooves, a whale calf pressing close in dark waters, a crane chick beating wings in a flock's long arc, a caribou calf stumbling through tundra, a monarch born into a journey it did not begin. These images remind us that childhood can be both fragile and fierce. Even the smallest must sometimes begin with distances that seem impossible, yet they do so because movement is written into them. As you drift further into rest, hear the faint echoes of migration, the thunder of hooves across plains, the pulse of flukes against ocean water, the cries of cranes in high skies, the crunch of hooves on tundra snow, the whisper of butterfly wings. These sounds are not only motion, they are tradition, endurance, and belonging. If migration teaches the young resilience through distance, what do they learn in the first fragile separations, when independence begins and they step away from the care that once held them close? The last step of childhood is not always marked by ceremony, yet it is one of the most profound. Independence arrives gradually or suddenly, gently or with rupture. It comes when the young must take their first steps into a world no longer softened by constant parental care. For some, this separation is tender, for others abrupt, but in all, it marks the moment when survival begins to rest in their own paws, wings or fins. In the forests, young orangutans stay with their mothers for years, learning how to select fruit, how to weave sleeping nests from branches, how to move quietly through trees. Independence comes slowly, with long practice. Even as juveniles, they return to their mothers at night, sharing the same nest until confidence finally outweighs need. The first night an orangutan builds its own nest is a quiet rite of passage, the shift from child to self-reliant traveler of the canopy. In the seas, seal pups face independence more abruptly. After weeks or months of nursing, the mother departs to the waves and does not return. The pup, plump with milk fat, must now swim and feed itself, guided only by instinct. The separation is stark, one day warmth and certainty, the next solitude and testing. Yet within days the pup begins to dive, to chase fish, to adapt. Independence here is less a choice than a necessity, a leap demanded by the tide. On the open plains, zebra foals follow their mothers closely for the first months, learning the patterns of the herd. Yet gradually they spend more time with peers, grazing and playing farther away. The shift is subtle but steady, a loosening of ties that once felt unbreakable. By the time they are nearly grown, they move easily within the herd, as individuals, no longer shadows of their mothers, but members of a larger body. Independence for zebras is absorbed through community rather than solitude. In the skies, young eagles are pushed into independence with dramatic force. Parents feed them for weeks in the nest, until their wings are strong and restless. Then comes the first flight, often a tumble, sometimes a fall. The eaglet must leap or be left behind, hunger pressing it toward the air. When it succeeds, the sky opens as both freedom and demand. Independence is a single plunge into air, a moment when fear and necessity converge. And in hidden burrows, young rabbits face a quiet departure. Mothers nurse them briefly and then leave, returning only once or twice a day. Soon, the young venture out, exploring the edges of grass and soil. The transition is swift, from milk to foraging, from hiding to darting. Their independence is fragile, their bodies small, their survival precarious. Yet within that fragility lies the spark of resilience, the same instinct that drives all young to step forward despite risk. These scenes show independence not as one story, but as many. It can be gradual, like the orangutan learning over years. It can be abrupt, like the seal pup left on shore. It can be collective, like the zebra foal absorbed into the herd. It can be dramatic, like the eagle's first flight. It can be fragile, like the rabbit leaving the burrow. In each, the young cross a threshold, no longer defined by closeness to parents, but by their own choices, their own endurance. For us, lying in stillness, these moments echo deeply. We too have known partings that shaped us, times when care gave way to responsibility, when guidance loosened into distance. Independence, in every species, is both loss and gift. It removes the safety of constant shelter, but grants the freedom of becoming. As you rest, imagine these departures: the orangutan settling into its first self-made nest under the canopy, the seal pup diving into waves for the first time alone, the zebra foal grazing in the herd with steady confidence, the eagle plunging from the nest into the air, the rabbit slipping from its burrow into the twilight grass. Each is a story of letting go, of youth reshaping into survival. And so the circle of beginnings closes. From first cries to first steps, from play to parting, the 100 quiet facts of baby animals remind us of life's persistence, of tenderness and testing, of closeness and separation. To drift asleep with these images is to rest in the truth that all lives begin in fragility, yet each finds its way towards strength. What we inherit from these stories is not only knowledge of nature, but a reflection of ourselves. We too were carried, sheltered, taught, tested, and finally released. We too began in helplessness and grew into independence, and perhaps that is why these stories soothe us. They remind us of the shared arc that threads through every living being. And so we return to stillness. We have wandered far tonight, through forests and rivers, nests and burrows, oceans and skies. We have listened to 100 beginnings, small cries, first breaths, first tumbles, first partings, each one a fact of the natural world, yet each one carrying a soft mirror for ourselves. We began with helplessness, creatures born blind, featherless, or small enough to rest on a fingertip. We followed them into safety, burrows dug, nests woven, pouches carried close. We watched as herds circled, as mothers hummed lullabies, as colonies shielded thousands in shared warmth. From there we saw growth, molting skins, awkward spurts, first voices, the shaping of skills through imitation and play. We lingered with siblings pressing close, with migrations that demanded endurance, with the fragile separations of independence. Every step reminded us of one truth: childhood is never wasted time. It is the work of becoming, hidden within softness and fragility, rehearsed in games and calls, strengthened in the quiet resilience of survival. As you lie here now, breathing slowly, let those images drift together like clouds: the spotted fawn pressed against dappled grass, the whale calf surfacing beside its mother, the bat pup babbling in a dark cave, the otter pup sliding down muddy banks, the lion cub wrestling in golden dust, the eagle fledgling leaping into sky. Each scene is different, yet all hum the same melody, life beginning again and again, tender and determined. And beneath all these stories lingers the question we carried from the start: if every bond of childhood ends in parting, does independence ever erase the echo of the care that began us? The answer, whispered by every calf, chick, pup, and joey, is no. The bonds remain. They are written into memory, into muscle, into the very way a creature stands, calls, flies, or swims. Independence does not erase closeness, it carries it forward, a trace within every breath. We too are shaped by those echoes, living with the invisible imprints of the arms, voices, and shelters that once kept us safe. So as you close your eyes and let the weight of the day dissolve, you can rest in this knowing: fragility is not weakness, care is never wasted, and every departure carries the warmth of its beginning. Breathe in gently, feel the body grow soft, breathe out slowly, let the story settle like leaves on quiet water. Tonight you have traveled through 100 lives, yet the only journey left now is inward, into rest, into peace, into the dreamlike space where beginnings and endings meet. And when morning comes, you will wake a little wiser, reminded that every life yours included began with the same miracle: the first breath, the first bond, the first fragile step into a vast and waiting world. Sleep well, and let the echoes of these baby voices carry you into dreams. Tomorrow will bring its own wild wonders,